What's going on, guys? It's Mike for SimRacing 604, and today I'm talking about GTR2. Super old school title, 2006 it was released, but only recently have I got into it. It's been sitting in my Steam library forever. I haven't had the chance to try it, but finally, Steve at Race Department, I was chatting with him, and he convinced me to finally fire it up, and I've just been lost in it ever since. It's amazing, and I have some thoughts on GTR2, not only on GTR2 itself, but how it relates to sim racing broadly. So I'm going to be talking about that today. Let's go. Alright guys, let's talk GTR2.
Green flag. Stay safe, man, and good luck. Good luck.
And why this game is my absolute obsession. Right now, I regret that it took me this long to get it going, if I'm honest. It is so good. Whoa. That was a rough start to the video. Alright, so why do I love GTR2? The first thing is, this just makes it a no-brainer in my opinion. I mean, we all know the legend of GTR2. If you've been in sim racing for any length of time, you've heard that probably a lot of people got their start in this sim, and because it's 15 years old, it is offered on Steam for about $5 US. So, amazing price. It's the price of a Starbucks coffee, and you get a pretty amazing sim for that price. It just, again, just becomes a no-brainer there. Plus the mods, like the anniversary patch, is free on Race Department. I will drop links to that, by the way, in the description to this video. So, price number one, no-brainer. We can stop there. Just go get it. You'll enjoy it. But carrying on just the same, second thing is, and this is also relating to its age, is that it could run, frankly, on probably a calculator. Like, it's so light. Granted, I have a pretty good size, or a pretty good performing PC here. Come on, guys. A 3900X processor with a 6800 XT GPU. And, anyway, it barely idles. Like, this game runs so light, so efficiently on my PC that, yeah, if you're so inclined, you could probably mine crypto at the same time you're playing this title. It's pretty amazing. And, yeah, so if you have an older PC and are looking to sim race, but you're kind of tired of fooling around with graphics settings and limited AI spots and things like that, this is a tremendous option for you. The third thing to talk about is kind of a big one, but I'll get into it. The training mode that it offers. So when you first fire it up, you're offered the chance to race, but your racing options are limited because you haven't yet completed training. So it takes you through the basics of acceleration, braking, cornering, overtaking, and just general, and there's also track guides, and just generally how to sim race better. And I think that's a pretty awesome idea. There's so many titles that just throw you in and don't really give you the basis to be a sim racer. And you know, it's one thing if it's a racing game, because you can probably get competent at it pretty quick, but if you're coming from a racing game world getting into racing sims, which I'm sure a lot of people are, it can be overwhelming, frankly. We kind of take it for granted if we've been sim racing a long time, but if you think back to the first time you got into a racing sim, you were probably humbled by it. But GTR2 addresses that through its training and practice modes, so pretty awesome. Fourth thing, the tires feel amazing. It's not as bumpy, you don't feel as much of the road as you do with, say, R Factor 2 or Automobilista 1, but at the same time, you do feel enough, and they bite. It's easy to keep it smooth. It's not like you're fighting it and wondering when you will and will not have grip. It's pretty amazing. It does a great job with tire modeling, and the grip level seems just perfect. You can push the car really hard. If you push it too hard, you will lose control. You will go around. You get off track, you get into the grass, same thing. But it never feels unfair. The car feels nicely stuck to the ground without feeling, to the road rather, without feeling boring or easy at any point. It's really amazing. Whoa, that was close. Looking at my notes. Number 5 is the car and track selection. Now, this is something that I'm sure will be debated, but I like the, not necessarily single make, but the limited scope of some racing titles like F1, the recent F1 titles with the Formula 2 cars. I think that was a big step for them. Really opened it up, gave you some alternative to just the Formula 1 cars. Assetto Corsa Competizione, GT4 pack, same thing. You're getting bored of GT3s, it opened it up. And this game centers around GT racing from, no surprise, 15 years ago. 2004, 2005 GT, if I'm not mistaken. And you've got your Ferraris, you've got your Lamborghinis, and it's the GT cars we love, but not the same ones we have in every title. If you're familiar with the RSS GT pack for Assetto Corsa, it's those cars, plus a few extras. GTN is in here as well. And as far as tracks, there's a lot of really great ones. You have, obviously, Spa that we're racing at. There's Imola, there's Monza, so there's a few you know. But it also has some tracks that you probably don't know as well, like Manicours, let's see, Valencia, and there's a few. And again, those are locked until you can sort of prove your competence at those tracks. And yeah, just an impressive car and track selection. It has enough to keep you interested, but not so much that it stretches itself thin. I would say that something like a Project Cars 2 tries to do too much, whereas they just kind of bit off the right amount with this one, if you want my opinion. And sixth thing, it's kind of an abstraction, but this feels like an uncompromising sim. And I know I just got through telling you that there's training to help you transition from racing games to a racing sim, but it doesn't feel like there's many compromises made once you're actually in the sim to really, I don't want to say coddle, but to really sort of make things easier for you. In many ways, it challenges you every time you get on track here. Keep losing it through Eau Rouge. And it feels like SimBin just set out to make an uncompromising GT sim. Let's not make this for the masses. Let's keep it sparse where it can be sparse, and focus on the driving experience above all. And it really comes through. Like, the driving experience is fantastic. And for reference on kind of keeping it sparse where they could, like the graphics, if I'm not mistaken, the first Forza came out in 2005, and so 1 year earlier than this, and it looks totally different. It looks like it could be a modern racing title, a current gen racing title, but this obviously does not. This is showing its age for sure. And the sounds are accurate, but not super over the top, loud tire squeals, anything like that. So again, just feels like an uncompromising, just racing title, pure racing title. And I think if I had to guess, that's kind of what SimBin set out to do, and they really accomplished it here. It's a great title. Number 7 is that it is quirky to set up. I will say that, like, just getting my controls set up for my separate wheel and pedals was quite a task. It took me, I'm gonna say, oh, can't believe that worked out. I actually dropped it to neutral when I was overtaking there. I'm going to say it took me the better part of an hour to figure out how to set up my separate inputs. Turns out I had to unplug just about everything else so it didn't confuse the game. And then graphics, kind of the same thing. I was trying to get things tuned how I liked and just wasn't working out. And the sound sliders are kind of confusing at times. But anyway, I got it all dialed in and now it's amazing. But I was going to say, on the note of it being quirky, once you get it set up, like now that I'm at this point and can just jump into a race and enjoy myself, I've got the AI level figured out. It just is amazing. Like, once you get it set up, it feels as good as any modern racing sim. So it is certainly worth the time, worth those hours you might have to put in to get it up to the standard of what you're kind of used to in a racing title. But definitely worth it. It doesn't feel aged, amazingly. It looks aged, but it doesn't feel aged. And finally, the last thing that I want to talk about with this title is that it has actually changed my perspective on some modern titles. Because I look at this, it's from 2006, and I've heard people praising it for years now. Some people, you know, for them it's the definitive sim, and I can kind of understand that now. But what I mean by it's changed my perspective on modern sims is it's surprising the stuff you find in this title that you don't find in far newer titles, and you wonder what went wrong or why you have to sort of hunt to find modern cases of some of the stuff you find here. And I'll give you a few examples. So that training mode that I talked about, Gran Turismo Sport has an excellent training mode, as does this title. Why is that not present in every racing title? Granted, it's you know, a big feature. It would take a lot to implement. It's not something that developers can just make happen overnight. I get that. But in terms of making your title accessible for more people and just a fun yet challenging thing to do in a racing sim, I think the implementation of a training mode is a really, really great idea, and I'm surprised to see that as uncommon as it is. Also, this tire feel. So SimBin was able to get the cars feeling this good 15 years ago, and there are some titles, and I won't name names, you can draw your own conclusions, but there are some titles built in the last, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, let's say, that in my opinion do not drive as well. So it's like, if SimBin could accomplish this and did accomplish it a long time ago, why have other developers not been able to follow suit? And I know I'm starting to sound like an elitist based on you know, a dozen hours of playing GTR2, but I really feel that way. Like when I drive this, it's just like you're so connected to the car, and that's what we all strive for. That's what we all want in racing sims. So why is this not more common? Whoa. Also, and you won't probably hear this for a while, but the voices, the radio. So I'm getting radio calls from my pit when incidents happen, yellow flags, that kind of thing. But most of us have to do that through Crew Chief. So, and Crew Chief, don't get me wrong, Crew Chief is awesome, and I love to use it across various titles. So the question is, if Crew Chief is that much in demand and people love it that much, why is it not a standard feature for Sims? Again, GTR2 got it right. Also, I mentioned flags. The radio will tell you when there's a flag on the track. Flags can be conspicuously absent in racing titles. To this degree, anyway. And a lot of those incidents are caused by the AI. The AI is really, really interesting in this title. And instead of just... And oddly enough, this race has been pretty much incident-free, but I was racing at other circuits, and you'll just all of a sudden see two AI cars clash in front of you. They'll come together. Yellow flag goes up. You get a radio call. Yellow flag, sector 2. And it's just a really immersive moment. It's like, instead of the AI just being in a train for the entire race, or, you know, miraculously not coming together ever, which we see in some racing titles, they will collide. And it really just brings a sense of realism. Doesn't just feel like, of course you are, but it doesn't just feel like you're racing against a computer that is more or less perfect. Feels like the AI can make mistakes too. And that is a really good thing. I don't know why we don't see that in more racing titles. So, that's not to say that GTR2 does everything right. There are a lot of quirks here that I'm still getting used to that make this very imperfect, frankly. But there is a lot going on here that I think begs the question of why they're not more popular features across different racing sims.
Race over, man. Good job. That's what I'm talking about. You scored some points. Nice one. Bring it on back.
Radio call. Radio call. Again, I love it. Whereas that, you know, the pit being excited for you finishing in the points. It's cool. Anyway, I am done. But I'm so excited to have GTR2 in my life. Yes, I'm late to the party, but it's not hype. The game is that good. It, you know, might look kind of goofy on the surface, but as a pure racing sim, this is among the best I've ever tried, and I'm only probably about a dozen hours in. It's amazing, and it's kind of opened my eyes to want to try other titles. So, next up for me, this guy. Yes, I have a physical copy of Grand Prix Legends. It's going to be amazing, so stay tuned for that. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.